Welcome back, comic book fans from around the world. Troy David Phillips here, Flashback Comics in Woodbridge, Virginia. Continuing on with my segment, last time I talked about superhero teams. Not any specific team. What I talked about was how good teams, how long-lasting teams are constructed. And I pointed out that there is a theme amongst each of the longest-running, most successful superhero teams. There's one of three formulas that most of these teams have ever followed. But I hear rumbling in the back. And that rumbling are those characters who say, hey, what's wrong with being bad? What about our teams? Well, you know what? What makes a successful team of bad guys? What makes a successful team of supervillains? Supervillains, generally speaking, do not have their own ongoing series, so the formula that they follow and the measure of their success is very, very different. Well, here is one of the things. The villains should have a unified goal. Something brings them together. Often that's just as simple as, hey, let's make money. Let's pool our resources and sell our services and make a bunch of money. We'll rob banks, we'll shake people down, we'll be enforcers, we'll do whatever it is we need to do to get a big share of cash. Sometimes it's revenge themed, like the Sinister Six. Sometimes it's not necessarily revenge, but hey, we need to do away with the heroes if we're ever going to be successful in our other criminal endeavors, so let's band ourselves together, and now you have the Injustice Gang of the World, the Injustice Society. If you're a fan of the old Super Friends cartoon, then you have the Legion of Doom. Legion of Doom, for the most part, is the Injustice Society, but hey, two different incarnations of the same thing. So those are basically the formulas that the villains will follow. Now, villains are usually built around one charismatic individual. He might be the strongest. He might be the most powerful. He might simply be the smartest. But he generally has a vision and personal charisma. He has the kind of personality that the other villains come to. They want to work with this person, or in some cases want to work for that person. I would say, as a fan, reading into it, Bullseye is attracted to the Kingpin's charisma, and this is why Bullseye wants to kill people for the Kingpin. Because otherwise, if Bullseye didn't respect Wilson Fisk, Bullseye would have just tried to kill him himself. He does not do that. But there are other crime bosses that Bullseye has had no problem taking a swing at. Perhaps they were low level like Eric Slaughter, or perhaps they went all the way up to the Red Skull. But charisma goes a long way in holding together a villain team. If the villains don't have a unified goal, if the villains don't have a charismatic leader with a vision, then the villains will most likely fall apart, because most villains are not trustworthy people. They barely trust each other, and they're pretty treacherous individuals. And yes, it is entirely possible to have honor among thieves, but for most of these guys, not really so much. They don't trust each other, they don't always count on each other, they don't always have each other's backs, and sometimes they're just a bunch of prima donnas. One of the things that kept the original Sinister Six from actually defeating Spider-Man was that they each wanted to go off and take their shots at Spider-Man one-on-one. They didn't pull themselves together as a team, and Spider-Man even said so. If the six of you had hit me all at once, I'd have already been finished. Well, hey, that's for next time then, right? Except the Sinister Six combined still hasn't taken Spider-Man down. And truthfully, neither did the Sinister Syndicate. But the Sinister Syndicate was probably more successful overall than the Sinister Six was. So there you have it. These are the things that pull these villain teams together and hold them together. And without them, you see the villain teams fall apart. If you think Civil War and Civil War II were bad with heroes versus heroes, you should see some of the fallouts when villains fight villains. When a villain team falls apart, it can fall apart hard. So in terms of being a bad guy in a villain team, it might seem like a good idea to bring ourselves together and put our resources together, but given the personalities here, things can get bad, and they can get bad very, very quickly. Don't believe me? Look at how things worked out for the Illuminati in the pages of World War Hulks. In the Alpha series, we see the leader organize a bunch of Marvel's smart guy villains like the Mad Thinker and Egghead and the Red Ghost. But they reached out to Dr. Doom, and Dr. Doom did not lose too terribly much time turning on everybody else. So when you're putting your teams together, not only do you need resourcefulness and charisma, not only do you need a unified purpose, but you actually need villains that need each other to foster teamwork. The best villains work with each other and don't necessarily think that they don't need anybody else. Hey, I'm the strongest one here. I'm the most powerful one. I don't need you, and I'm just going to step up and be a prima donna, and that's when things fall apart. So, that's what makes a good hero team, that's what makes a good villain team, and now let the conflicts begin.